All right, welcome to tonight's call, the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, Monday night. I promised you on the text that I was going to be brief, so I will be brief. And then you guys can go out and have fun on your summer evening. If you're watching this online afterwards, great, take your time. So the focus tonight is to focus on your net worth and not income. And part of the reason this topic came up, actually, it popped up into my lap on this one. And I'm glad it did because I've been talking to all kinds of people in the last year, even that, and maybe even started when we were teaching school at the high school level, and kids were so worried about income. And you see this with college grads, once they graduate college, they're always interested and everyone's talking. You get hired by a big eight accounting firm or a law firm, and it's like, well, what's your starting salary? And everyone's focused on earning, right? And what you earn when you get started. And it's a focus of conversation nationally. It's a focus of conversation socially. You hear that, so and so makes more than me. I've been there longer, and I saw their pay stub. This is a part of our culture. And I want everyone tonight to realize that you don't have to play that game because it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter, but income is not as important as net worth. And if you focus on net worth instead of income, I think you're going to see your net income improve also. So your gross income and your net income should improve if you're focused on net worth instead of just income. So a couple of definitions so we're all on the same page, know what we're talking about. And then I've got a couple of stories to share, and then we're going to cut it out. So income is transitory, right? You go with the flow. You've got good months, you've got bad months. You might have a good quarter, you might have a bad quarter followed by a better quarter, but it's transitory. Income is always transitory. And even if you're making the same amount, if that's not changing, let's say you're at a salary of 120,000 a year, and that's your salary. What happens? All of a sudden you've got inflation, and they say it's 3%. Well, what's your buying power? It's really like 25% inflation rate right now, if you look at how that affects your income. So it's still transitory. You're still focused on income and not net worth. So if you're focused on that income, it's transitory, it's temporary, and you're focusing more on the short term. I hope that everybody here is able to look long term. This is the long game. If you're an entrepreneur and you're playing the short game, you're in the wrong business. You should be working for somebody else, right? And not focusing on sideline ventures and doing something different. If you're just focused on income, it's always going to be something that's going to hold you back. So common misconceptions are that high income always equates to financial success. One of my business partners in a different business is he actually retired early, NFL player. And he got out because of injuries, and he got out early, which is probably a good thing. But he was looking at some of his paychecks, and he said, wow, look at the kind of money I was making back then, that pay. But he's now on the residual income thing. He's making residual income on other investments. And it's not so much what you make short term. And he knows a whole lot of his comrades. That's probably a bad word to use in today's vernacular. A lot of his colleagues and people that he played with who were making millions, salaries of millions. And when they're done, they're broke, or they just have what they have and nothing else to settle back on. It's about how you manage your income that's more important than the income you earn. So think about that. And we've all heard those stories, right? We know that people are out there and they can make tons of money. I know when I was in the car business once, we had an MD. He was actually a surgeon, and he was going through a divorce, and his wife got the good car, and he had this old car that broke down. And so he's in dire need, desperate need of a car. And this is a guy who's making $250,000 a year. I know because we pulled his credit, looked at his financials, and he had nothing. He wasn't a ghost. He was a dirtbag on credit. His credit score was like in the 500s. We couldn't get him financed. This is a guy who's a surgeon making tons of money, and his credit was so poor, he could not buy the cheapest used car we had on the lot. Sent him walking. Nothing you can do. Find somebody who loves you, get some down payment, or have them buy the car and you pay them for it. You know, a straw purchase. It's crazy. It's not about income. And that's just one quick story, and there are more. But we all know that. So income is money received, definition wise, on a regular basis for work or through investments. So even if you're drawing a salary from your investments, it's still, you know, a salary. It's still your income if you're living off of that as an income. It's a short-term measure of financial health. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not important. It is a short-term measure of your financial health. And more importantly, we just talked about this with bad credit, it reflects your earning power, right? Your income reflects your earning power, what you're able to earn in the future if you're earning now, and you can leverage that into purchasing power. So it can fluctuate due to job changes, bonuses, raises, economic conditions, getting raises, you know, all kinds of things that are in your control and out of your control. So if you know that there are bonuses and there are targets to hit, you can actually choose to shoot for those. And even think about that. If you sell more product and you can then increase your next order and buy at a lower rate, but continue selling it at the same, it's the same as giving yourself a raise, right? If you're paying $2,000 a month for product and all of a sudden you can buy that same product at $1,500 a month and still sell your end product for the same amount, you've just given yourself a raise. So think of things in those terms, you know, but that is something that is always going to be your salary, wages, dividends, interest, or if you're getting rental income, that sort of thing, that's still your income. Net worth is defined differently. Net worth is simply your total assets minus your total liabilities. That's what, if you're going someplace and they're looking at your financial statement, and what is your net worth, and they want to invest in you, or you're looking to acquire other companies or other partners and they want to know your net worth, that's just real simple. How much do you have? How much do you owe on what you have? Deduct what you owe from what you have. What's remaining is yours. And that is a long-term measure of financial stability. Most people start thinking about net worth way down the road. You should be thinking about net worth today. You should be thinking about it right now. And that means you need to be setting money aside and doing something with it that's going toward your net worth, not just your income, not just savings, not just your emergency account. What are you doing to build your long-term financial stability? So it reflects your accumulation of assets and the reduction of your liabilities. It's more stable. Your net worth is more stable, and it provides a clearer picture of your financial health. So if you've managed to be in a home and you've paid it off, and you're in another home and you own most of it, even if you still have a mortgage on it, but you've got all that equity in it, that increases your net worth. So that goes without saying, or it should go without saying, but that's what you want to do, is own your property, own your stuff as soon as you can. Figure out a strategy and a plan to own what you're going to own, because that goes to net worth instead of on your liability side. So figure out what you can do to pay things off earlier. Pay on that principal, you know, just start doing those little things, whether it's a car loan, whether it's a mortgage, pay down the principal and start building your net worth. That's building it up right away. So net worth includes, okay, not just what you currently own, but it's also your investments. Be looking at your investment portfolio, your stocks, bonds that are income producing, businesses you may own, property you own, equipment, personal property. And I always do this caveat because I spent years in the automotive industry. Cars are not assets. Okay? Unless you're buying a Ferrari, a Bentley, a Lamborghini, an automobile is not an asset. It is a piece of personal property that depreciates, not appreciates, not stays the same in value. The only exception I can give to that is during COVID when the whole market was turned upside down and cars actually appreciated. That's stabilized now. So that was just a fluke. Don't plan on that for net worth, that your car is going to be, where your fleet of automobiles in the backyard is going to be, part of your net worth. They are depreciating pieces of personal property, not appreciating. Again, unless you're buying Ferraris, Bentleys, Lamborghinis, something like that. Or if you buy a brand new car and put it up on blocks and you're going to give it to your kids or your grandkid when they get their driver's license, and it's going to be a brand new 1990 and 2050, that might have some intrinsic value. But be thinking of those things, right? Intellectual property, if you have trademarks, if you have patents, right? Those things are going to have value. You can put those in your net worth side. Royalties, if you have a trust, if you're on a trust. Books, Jim, you were talking about this with a friend of yours, right? Royalties from books. That's something that can be part of a portfolio. Professional papers, medical doctors, scientists, and that sort of thing. Those are part of things that go in their net worth. Their curriculum vitae is about getting jobs and prestige and speaking engagements, but net worth is actual work product that you can leverage for those things. Network marketing, residual income, that's part of my net worth. I've got money coming in that you don't have to do anything for. That's always a value added thing. And this is, here's a little tidbit of information. If anyone is or does in the future get involved in network marketing, make sure that marketing plan is something that can be passed on, right? Some network marketing companies say it ends. If you die, that's it. It's all over. So make sure that you and your spouse are on there. If you're married or your partner, that you're on that together. If one dies, the other one's still there. And then do make sure that it's something that can be inherited so that income doesn't stop. So that's always something that is important to look at. So importance of net worth, debt management. This is the critical message tonight. Debt management is going to help build your net worth. Whatever you can do to do that faster. We do have the credit basics. If anyone here or who's listening later on wants to really understand credit, from the basic level and then dive in from there, there is a document on the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate document site, Credit Basics, that really lets you know. And it's a fickle thing, 3 different reporting agencies and they all have different criteria. It's crazy, but somehow it all fleshes out. And Riley, you've been in this business for a long time, helping people with credit and solving credit problems and that sort of thing. It is huge. Debt management is huge for your credit portfolio. And what that is, I always said credit is the measure of one man's trust in another. That's really all credit is. Let's keep it real simple. Can someone else trust you? But net worth is what your value is, right? It goes beyond trust. It goes to value. What is the value? If you were to pass away and they liquidated your estate, what's the dollar amount there? So financial security, high net worth means you have assets to fall back on during tough times. So it's important to start working on it now, not just as a retirement thing. Retirement planning and wealth accumulation. Net worth shows how well you are saving and investing your income. It's just that simple. The two are tied together. And that should go toward your retirement thinking. And I know we've got younger people on here tonight, people younger than me by many, many years. Retirement is something that is not just a fixed point in time that you say, oh, here's my retirement date. And you're going to get a gold watch and then go watch the sunset while people golf. That's not retirement. Retirement means you have to have a plan for those years, for the future. And we're all living longer. So you better be doing a good job of this starting now. Now, Jim, this is the other thing I want to say. It's not just assets that we think about all the time, the money, the financial assets, what you've got in stocks, bonds, CDs, that sort of thing. We've got someone here who sells watches, heirloom watches. You buy a Timex and it's not going to increase in value, but there are watches you can buy. Redneck watches. Chris Moeller, one of the young entrepreneurs, not on tonight, but He is into heirloom watches, things that increase in value. So things like that, or if you're going to spend money and you think it's frivolous, a frivolous expenditure, spend it on something that's frivolous that can actually increase in value. Something you could give your kids, grandkids, and it's going to increase the value of your estate. So there are things to think about like that. I've got an aunt who her deal was diamonds. She invested in diamonds. That's, some people have this, some people have that. She invested in diamonds. She was a diamond hoarder, and her kids and family got lots of diamonds. So there's always something. But it is determined. Oh, this is what I was going to bring up about that. Jim was on the call earlier tonight. You all missed out because he's doing some work on his real estate, getting ready for his real estate exam. But he was talking about, he used to have some artwork, and it was, I can't even remember what it was now, but it was a print of somebody who's very famous, and he lost it in a divorce. But that's artwork is something else. There are other things to invest in. Follow your passions, follow what your interests are, but be wise with your purchases. Be wise and think of your purchases as investments. And this is where I want to tie it into what Jim is always preaching, what you're always hearing us on this topic talking about, is values. Your net worth is going to be determined by the values you have. And I'm going to go a step further and I'm say your values and your interests tied together, what you're interested in. And so here's my first story, because it ties to interests. And in fact, I even talked about it a few sessions ago, where I said, wouldn't it have been nice if we all invested, if we had a crystal ball and we could know when to invest in Walmart and when to invest in Apple and Google and the dot-coms, the ones that didn't go belly up during the dot-com bubble, right? Because a lot of people lost it during those things. Well, here's a story, and some of you may know this. I brought it back up. I looked it back up because I wanted to share it tonight. It's the millionaire janitor. Does anybody remember this gentleman? The millionaire janitor, his name was Ronald Reed. He died in 2014. And he was a janitor and a gas station attendant. And he worked at a J.C. Penney store as a janitor. And he had, people who knew him said he had this denim jacket he always wore, and he had a safety pin. The little fob broke off, and so he had a safety pin to zip up his jacket. He would go out to this little cafe, and people would buy him lunch because they thought he was, maybe he couldn't afford to buy his own lunch. And he just, a modest salary. I don't know what a janitor made back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, before he retired. And he spent some time in the military, but he's very frugal, very frugal. But on the side, he invested money. And his thing, and this is what I loved about it, he amassed a fortune of $8 million by investing in dividend-producing stocks. And he avoided stocks of companies he did not understand, such as tech companies. All right? So everyone's thinking you got to be involved in the latest, greatest tech stuff. He didn't understand it. He avoided it, and he still amassed $8 million. He gave it all away when he died. Nobody knew he had this money. They all thought he was a pauper. And he died, and all of a sudden, a hospital and a school got, well, what was it here? Somebody got a whole bunch of $1.2 million to a library, and $4.8 million went to a hospital in his hometown. So think about that. It's not about his income. If people looked at him and said, oh, income is important, and oh, he's just a janitor and he didn't aspire to anything else, it's not about income. It's about your values. It's about your interests, where you're comfortable, and making wise choices and living within your means. You don't have to live like a pauper. You don't have to live as frugal as Ronald Reed did, but live within your means. Make wise choices. And it's going to go toward your net worth. Now, hopefully, if all you guys do that, you can enjoy the fruits of that. Don't die before you do it. My other thing is, if you have vacation time, take it. My business partner who passed away 2 years ago now, His motto, I can still hear his voice saying it, was live rich or die rich. He was always like, it's okay to amass and accumulate, but if you can live rich or you can die with all that money. This guy died with all that money. He could have lived rich. I think there's a healthy balance that we can come up with. Find the balance that works for you, your family, your lifestyle. All right, so that's story number, I guess, 2. My final story is this, because this is true net worth. Nicholas George Winton, he died in 2015. Anybody remember him? Wave a hand. Okay, you might when you hear the story. He was actually knighted, Sir Nicholas George Winton. He was a man in, well, let's see, obviously the United Kingdom, but he made a visit just before World War II kicked off, just before the whole Auschwitz thing happened. And he saved the lives of 669 children. Their parents were killed in the Holocaust. He smuggled the children out, found homes for them, and placed them in 2 different places. The United Kingdom was one, 669. He was on a BBC television program called That's Life in 1988. He was 79 years old. He had no idea. His family, most of his family didn't even know what he had done. But some people had done some digging and found out what this man did. And on this live TV show, the entire audience was filled with the survivors, their children and grandchildren of the people he saved. 669 lives that he saved, and their children and their grandchildren. Tell me what his net worth is. That, my friends, is the net worth I want all of you to be focused on. What impact are you making on other people's lives? Who are you helping? How can you help? Can you help more? And not to do it for the financial gain, but to do it because your values line up, your interests line up, and it's the right thing to do. That is the net worth that matters. And that's the story I wanted to end with tonight. It's not all about the money. You've heard me say that over and over and over. We need to be smart. We need to be frugal. We need to be on the top of our game. We need to work hard. We need to find the edge. We need to be competitive. We need to embrace capitalism for all it's worth, but all it's worth is worthless if we're not helping other people. And I'm going to end on that note. I told you I'd be brief. We're at 20 minutes, and I crammed life stories into that. Any comments from anybody, or you want to go play? Questions? Did you get anything out of this?
It was awesome. Thank you.
There you go. All right. As long as I've got the head nods, I'm happy. All right. If you're watching this,
seeing the Winston story on social media. Now that
there you go. It's, yeah. And again, it's just a reminder of what we're here to do. All of us, what we're here on earth to do. You know, and how we get there, how we get to the end of this is a personal thing, and we all get to do our own thing, and we can have fun doing it and have the trials and tribulations. But ultimately, you know, well done, good and faithful servant. Boy, we can make that happen. And it's a lot easier to help other people with money. It's a lot easier to be able to make a difference in other people's if you're not doing it from a position of lack. So yes, we're here to be entrepreneurs and to help you financially succeed. But what you do with it is of the utmost importance. So again, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I'm going to get off. All right. It's been a pleasure, you guys. If you've got nothing else, I'm going to cut you loose. Go have dinner. Go spend some time with your family. Go look at your portfolio. Make a phone call. All right.
All right.
All right, you guys.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk to you next week.
Thanks all.
Okay.